Morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another special episode of Community Voices with SDN, and it is called Connected by Design. I am Sudeshna Mahata, your favorite host and SDN ambassador. And we are here to talk to some wonderful community partners today who are going to be our guests. But before we go into that, we just completed SDN's biggest event last week, which is the Service Design Global Conference in Dallas, Texas. And I know y'all are still in the process of receiving all that buzzing energy, collaborative spirit, and still jotting down your takeaways, right? I'm sure your LinkedIn feed is like filled with stunning pictures and all those insightful reflections from our community. So I'm just going to take one moment to firstly thank all of you for really making SDGC a success. It is your support and this beloved community that really makes this event come alive. Even if you're a speaker or you were a facilitator or participant, volunteer, or a design curious person who's just been going through our feed, it is only with your presence that this event was successful. So, a lot of heartfelt gratitude to all of you. Now, just coming back and thinking about like such a huge event, it is not really possible with just our community. There are a number of community partners that really come together to build this event, and we have our trusted partners who help us amplify our global reach. So today, I am super excited to bring to you representative of four of those organizations who are our community allies. And we will take a moment to kind of reflect on the partnerships meetings and then how, like, as a community, we show up and what does designing as a community even mean and look like in practice. So, before I welcome our amazing guests on stage, just a quick reminder to like drop your comments and drop your questions in the chat. We will have a Q&A, and also tell me where you're joining from in the world. And we will now move to the stage. Hello, everyone. It is so lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us and making the time today for this Community Voices episode. You'll have been our partners from such a long time in different events with SDN, and I can't wait to hear all of your stories. So, just to get started, I would love for you to introduce a little bit about yourself, your organization, and how did partnership with SDN even start? Ananya, can I nominate you?
Okay. All right. Me first. All right. Hi. As you could see, I am Ananya, as my name flashes. And yes, I'm director of STD India. STD India started back in 2019. It's an idea. Beyond STD, I am in my personal life. I work as a researcher at Aalborg University in Denmark. And when I mentioned today SDD India, it is impossible without the wonderful community we have and the active members. So I'd like to take their name very quickly. Thanks Shaksham, Juli, Punita, Shreya, Purba, everyone who has been putting efforts and shaping up SDD India as a chapter. Um, what does it mean to have SDN as an entity? It's something that helps new chapters come up. I mean, that's how our journey has been. When I returned to India after my masters and a short uh, short I would say working year in Germany, I was really inspired by STD Berlin and how STD Milan was, and I wanted to kind of have something same at India. And that's the point when we reached out to STN Global, and when we were creating our first event, we received those shout outs from STD Milan, Berlin, as well as we received the support and kind of like a you go ahead, that kind of energy from SDN as well. So and I personally feel that when we are building this community and throughout the years we have only partnered again and again and showed in different capacity. You will always see a lot of Indian volunteers who are coming to SDN in different type of initiatives you are doing. So that's what is, I think, the core spirit that SDN brings, and all the service designers as us we bring. It's about the collaboration. It's about being very much ecosystem. We are a whole ecosystem, a chain of people and communities around who are trying to build this collective voice and collective strength of practicing a certain discipline, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ananya. And STD and SDN have been collaborating so closely in all their different chapters that we're almost like sister organizations that way. All right, perfect. Fouad, can I nominate you next?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sudesh. My name is Fouad Jallouli. I'm the Director of Service Design at the Government of Alberta. So I'm roughly responsible for managing a team of about 100 service designers working across government, and really thinking about how they can impact the lives of citizens. And so very much in the vein of some of the work that our predecessors have done in the UK, as well as 18F and others in a different kind of government contexts. We're really focused on driving what good experiences look like, and then of course making our organization have the capability to be able to deliver on these great services and experiences. And for us, the SDN is really important because we just have such a huge community of service designers. You probably know many of them or have met them across travels. Like I mentioned, there's about 100 of us at the moment inside Government of Alberta. And so many of them are involved in SDN. They were down volunteering at the event in Dallas this last week. And so, it's really important for us to be part of a global community and be able to ensure that we get diverse experiences and points of view around how we look at the intersection of design and kind of what it means to be paid to do that kind of work or to do that kind of work within organizations. And so, yeah, it's me.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And God, you would have a lot of perspective also, like in a government setting, and also in since you visited SDGC. I'm super curious to also hear about your experience there. So next, I am going to ask Julie. Could you go ahead?
Hello, everyone. Very nice to meet you all, and also hello to the listeners. My name is Juli, and I reside in Hungary, which is where I'm from. I have lived in and worked as a service designer in a variety of different countries, actually. I currently work as a freelancer, and I have been doing this. I've been working in this setup for almost 10 years now. So I think I bring a different kind of perspective to this group. Actually, I do work as a freelancer on purpose. I find that as an external consultant, it is a certain role and a certain acceptance when you bring in a different kind of mindset into an organization, and it allows you to be a kind of change agent in a soft way, if that makes sense. So often the type of work I do is not necessarily just, and please don't take this in the wrong way, just doing service design on a project, but the idea is that helping the organization also adopt this thinking, however big measure they can do it by. So that's basically how I operate. I've worked across different industries and a variety of different setups. Government is one area I haven't worked at yet, so I would be very excited to hear, Fouad, your experience. And as for SDN, the first time I got in touch with SDN was in 2016, I believe, at the New York conference, which very much changed, let's say, I wouldn't say my life, but I met some wonderful people there who are my close allies and friends to this day. And I'm really sad that I couldn't make it to Dallas this year. So I will be very happy to hear your experiences. And my my point of view and my own experience in this profession is that without building this community, we are very much standing alone, because the type of responsibility and way of thinking we represent, it really sort of requires sharing these experiences and supporting each other. And by you sharing and your experiences and from different setups, it also allows me to change my way of thinking, hopefully also applying different approaches in the way that I encounter situations. So I think it's super valuable, and I think service design is one of those areas where sort of internationality is a big, I don't want to say big pro, because obviously it's a big pro everywhere, but somehow borders disappear. I will be happy to talk about it more a bit later.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie. I actually was having another conversation with Bridget the other day, who is our SDN president. We were talking about how borders disappear and how service design is almost like a passport to explore those different areas
Indeed.
in the industry. Right. Meltem.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Meltem Parlak. I'm the Internal Affairs Lead at ENTA, the Industrial Designer Association in Turkey, but currently residing in New York. I run a design consultancy called Parlak Plus. My background is on industrial design, but really getting into strategy and then building community. Those are the key roles that shaped my whole career the past 7-8 years. And talking about ENTA, the Industrial Designer Association of Turkey, it's really our main goal is like advancing the practice of industrial design through collaboration, education, and bringing the different stakeholders together under one roof. And our partnership with SDN started actually 2 years ago. Same mission, same vision, and it's just like organizations like coming together and believing that designing with communities, not just for them, but really creating a shared space for learning, for experimentation, for dialogue. But it's also a great opportunity for us, because SDN was a way to bring Turkey's vibrant design community into a global conversation. So really appreciative about the community partnership and really looking forward what we can do together too.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. That was beautiful introductions. And now, actually, Meltem, your talk about vision and mission got me a little bit curious. Just in terms of what are sort of the shared values and beliefs that are there that you think really resonate with SDN? And why do you think that this was kind of the strategic partnership you entered into?
The really the main thing is like what we talk and what all other guests talk about: building a community, helping each other, sharing what we know, but really bringing our profession to another level with a mindset of collaboration and everything. That is really the key point. Not just being internal, a small team, but reaching global voices. And then design is learning by doing, but you share your experiences, you collaborate you build on each other's ideas. And what I see with this service design network, the SDN, all like the conferences that you guys do and the topics that you bring into the importance of the topics is really the common belief. But I will say service design is really broader than industrial design. So like that is where I see the SDN is broader than ENTA, but SDN brings the stakeholders together. And that was the key point for us, not just students, professionals, but also different disciplines within the same mindset. And so that was the key point, I will say.
Yeah, that intersectionality, I think all of us have been exploring. And also, we've gone a little bit further this year. Even during the conference, we went for business transformation by design. So we also wanted to incorporate the business spaces and really think about design leadership and decision making. So yes, that is something I'm super excited to talk about as well. Fouad, can I get your perspective on what is kind of the partnership story with SDN look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what Melton was saying really resonates. I think sense of community and belonging is very, very important. I also think one really important aspect is, as mentioned earlier, was this diversity of opinion. And I think when you look at service design in the context of big complex organizations and you look at SDN, I think it's really important that you do have that diverse experience of different approaches and different ways of thinking about design. And so SDN provides a platform to meet other people who have different and diverse experiences in different industries and different ways of being, people who come from a design background, people who come from more of like a business or a policy background. I think there's a lot of different voices and different things to look at and understand, which I think are is really important when it comes to broadening our own personal outlook on our careers and on the skills that we want to learn and bring, but as well as what we can bring learnings from the community back to our organizations, or our own teams, to be able to use in that context.
Definitely. And that is such an important point you make. I'm curious, was there like a strategic, I don't know, some challenge or something about the current time that made this a timely partnership for you?
Well, I think there's a lot of challenges, especially in a complex scenario like mine, where we have a lot of complex, a lot of services, a lot of products within government, a lot of layers of complexity between policy, legislation, process, resources, and then the actual experiences of our services and products. And so I think right now, what I would say is that people need to learn how to do more with their roles in terms of being able to help the organizations that they work for, in a more broader way, and even and help them execute on design. Right. I think that's really the real nugget of kind of what's happening from my perspective is you have to be a design strategist and you have to be able to execute. And I think like that's where the industry is going, in my opinion.
True, like strategy meets execution. Julie, I saw your head nodding. I'm sure you have a lot of points to add here, so let me throw it to you.
Yeah, I was just nodding because I feel like I mentioned that I didn't work in government, but all those aspects also exist in other industries. And especially if you work in a big organization, policies and internal lines of power and how what makes sense from a design perspective may not make sense from an internal perspective. And then how do you get to advocate for this approach, and how do you make sure that at the end of the day these kind of principles can be applied throughout an organization? Actually, what I encounter quite a lot is that the biggest challenge, I think, for organizations, be it big or small, is that service design is a horizontal discipline. It needs to exist across different divisions. It needs to exist across different parts of a company, because most companies, maybe let's exclude Silicon Valley, where I think the funny part about service design is that the hero stories often come from a part of the world where even organizations are designed in a different way. And so so these tool sets and these approaches to service design may easier find their way into practice there, or execution, as Fouad mentioned. But if you look at a traditional type of company, and I feel that the world has a lot more of those, then you will encounter a lot of challenges in applying this way of thinking, and also supporting the said organization to apply these things. So that's why I was nodding my head very much. because as much as I love the work that I do, I see how even those stakeholders who accept it and want to use it often encounter challenges in doing so. And I find that especially as external support, the type of work that I do, but even if I work for an agency or in another capacity, I would work for an organization, it would be a big challenge for us to support these organizations and the stakeholders in it to use this approach successfully.
True. Thank you for sharing. I think we were doing a similar debate. It's called a pixel debate in SDGC, where we were talking about, hey, should design be part of just like all the teams? So should it be horizontal across, or should it be embedded within each team and then you bring them together? And that was very interesting because it was like a 50-50 and we're still trying to figure out which side you lie on that.
You think actually that both of those things that you mentioned could lead to the same result, as long as the type of thinking is represented in all of those points? I think you are good to go. The issue is often that they are not, and then
There you go, Ananya.
Yep, I actually was nodding head because there's a wonderful piece of article that Shaksham wrote for this. Basically, we have this Service Design Bikes magazine where we try to collect more stories and more case studies from India perspective. And he wrote one piece back in last year, August. Now he wrote again in this issue is exactly about this. How do you scale service design in a team? And then strategies was that do you place them in different or different parts of the organization, or do you have like a satellite model that you have people around who is a like a service design team, and then they go work with a certain department and then they keep coming back? So basically you put what to say, like like a accelerator mode when you put a service designer inside like that kind of setup. So I was just I mean I'm truly reflecting right now how we said things about service design is very global in nature. So we keep reflecting in kind of in a similar way. We start producing things, we start looking at those patterns. So this is why I think we need local communities, and we also need a space to come back as a global community, because then we can reflect and learn on these things, and we can nod our heads like we are doing today and say, yes, we have seen the same thing. And I think that's the most beautiful part of being local, globally local, I would say.
I love that term, global. Just gonna add, I really appreciate it because that was something that I've talked about a lot in terms of cultural adaptation. Like, and Julie was telling a little bit that, oh, you have the broader strategy, but then how do you adapt it to a certain region or to a certain locality? So, what kind of modularity it needs to have? And Julie, I believe you wanted to add something there.
Yeah, I just the part I wanted to add is that 2 years ago, I think it was, you introduced me, at least in the LinkedIn post, as the founder of Service Design Next. Service Design Next was an initiative for inviting service designers from around the globe to discuss the future of service design, because I felt it was in crisis in many ways because of how also the value of service design started, in my opinion, diluting by, I don't know how it went actually. Initially, I didn't know how it went in other countries, but then I learned that it was sort of similar, that a lot of these boot camps of service design started being introduced, and then people after 10 hours of service design could call themselves service design experts, and then it becomes a question of, okay, you hire someone who calls themselves a service design expert, but they really don't necessarily have the knowledge, the experience, the tool set yet. And then a company has a bad experience, and then it reflects back on service design, so then they don't want to use that anymore. So it becomes a vicious loop. So I thought, maybe let's open this conversation to people from all around the world, and we set up a series of workshops, and it was an open call, and actually we got a lot of response. Anyway, so long story, but I want to go with this is that we had 45 people from really all over the world, from Australia to Asia to Europe to the Americas, discussing the current state of service design, from the the selection process for us, the most important thing was that people with experience to come, right? So we wanted to hear opinions of people who have seen how it has changed, and just wanted to tell you, sorry for the long introduction to all this, but I wanted to tell you that what I learned throughout those weeks, other than meeting wonderful people, was that it was the same question everywhere. So from Australia to Europe to America. So indeed, these topics that we are talking about and the challenge of service design is super global. Coming back to Anannya.
Perfect. Fouad, I saw you nodding there. I would love your design leadership perspective on this. And as you're managing teams, just thinking about how within maybe government settings or bigger organizations, what does it look like?
Yeah, I mean, so we have a kind of a very unique model. So we distribute service design to all of our teams, right? And so we have like a practice at a top level in a community where we have folks who have shared methodology, our monthly guilds, all of our kind of like cross collaboration across portfolios. And then we have service designers on product teams that are focused on delivering, right? And so the idea is this contiguous force that is involved from the very beginning of design research and discovery all the way to delivery, to MVP, to execution, all the way down the road. So it's not like a start and stop where we do a bunch of research and hand over a brief and then go to the next problem. The designers are embedded all the way through their problem space. And so from our perspective, that allows us scale at a big level. So, we have, about 110 teams or so working across different problems, everywhere from, you can imagine rethinking of courts, and how people, go through the court system, to childcare, to driver's licenses, and, many, many, many different things. And so they're all very, very different problems. And so that's why we have to have a kind of a bit of a unique approach where we have designers embedded within the work, but also thinking about community, about what the practice of design looks like at the top level. Sometimes we have to sell design, I don't want to say sell design, but I would say communicate the value. And one thing that I will say, and I think that was a bit of a theme this year at SDN, was, showing both qualitative and quantitative results and outcomes and impacts. And so a big part of our work within service design is also metrics and outcomes. So how do we know a service is doing well? Are we creating a service? Are we solving the right problem? Is it worth the money that we're spending on this type of work? And so that's a part of some of the big thinking.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. And I imagine like policies and law also start playing roles because depending on the state, would you call them state or provinces, I believe, in Canada. So would that also have a lot of impact on the way you design? Does that need to be customized? I wonder if that's the right word there.
Yeah, every area has policy and legislation that has to be investigated and thought of, and sometimes we're ahead, right? Like, I'll just give a very quick example. We've had scenarios where we've wanted to move towards like fully digital in terms of like signatures and signing authority, excuse me, and these things. And the legislation has been lagging. And so we've had to like fight to get laws changed around signing things digitally, especially after the age of COVID. So absolutely, I think that's a part of service design, right? We have to think about the holistic experience, even physical experience, digital experience, all of it, right? Multi-channel. And so a good service designer is always looking at all of those things.
Definitely. Perfect. Thank you. Meltem, do you want to add to that local conversation now that we're diving into it?
I actually just want to build on really like having the service design. Like service design for us, it's really about orchestrating how experiences and systems and people connect. Not only what we designing, not just like products, could be physical, digital, but how it all comes together. Like the people, the process. That's why I really love like the horizontal, what Julia said about. It's not just one single point. It's not really looking at one area. Like specific product designers will, yes, look for a whole journey and like the touch points, everything. But service design is really more a horizon and like a broader perspective in that. And how things work really together across touch points. And the important is really becoming a business now. It's becoming on like every single team of organizations, because how we think, how we solve the problems is the key point when designing, I would say.
True, true. I'm gonna take our conversation a little bit back to the community aspect of it. Just thinking about all these different patterns that have emerged or different lines of thoughts that we were discussing. What is kind of the global service design ecosystem shifting towards, like, and how does your organization and SDN together evolve their role as we're looking at that global service design ecosystem shift? I'll let you volunteer. I don't want to put anyone on the spot right now.
Okay, I could go, but I would take it more towards the community aspect. Here, I think, again, dragging back to our conversation to a little bit towards how service design evolves, like how Juli, sorry, am I mispronounced? Okay, Juli has mentioned
Either
earlier.
way, perfect.
Okay, perfect. Um, I think service design, how it is being perceived, how it how it shapes up kind of depends of the way practiced. So for example, in India, when I came back and I was looking for a job as a service designer, I couldn't get one, but I got as an interaction designer in an organization who is aware of the service design role, and but they were not having service designer roles, frog design, and may gave me the space to create that role for myself and see the impact, again connecting to what he said, that you need to show the impact of service design before you start creating a role and actually investing money for that kind of competency. So that happened, and what I see is that service design has more role open. As a service designer, we have more roles open in different organizations, and there's been a growth in terms of how many people we see, and also the awareness. It's becoming more mainstream with other disciplines like user researchers, and especially the people who are holding the user experience lead role or design strategist role or strategic designer. They are kind of starting to mix the service design methodologies into their day-to-day work. So that's something we could see. And but like, will we have a lot of huge service design teams in India? I think it will take a lot of time, and the kind of work we do, and especially a lot of service designer in our region is very tied to digital touch point. And that's because the kind of system we live in, we have huge population to cater to. Then how do you scale your service? The very first thing that you comes to your mind, that we have to go digital. So I know it has been a constant complaint with our community that, oh, we are just stuck being doing same thing, like just a digital touch point, but we are not moving beyond in like physical experience and other things. So I mean, how the scenario is evolving? Yes, it is evolving in a very slow pace, and but at the same time it is having a progression. but h- but the progression looks different. It doesn't suddenly means that people, maybe the growth in our region will not be like people will have hundreds and thousands of service designer role. Service design becomes more mainstream, but it would be something more like people start looking at service design as a vertical skill for any people who are designing, any people who are designing. So it would be more, something more like, if you are a user researcher, you should be little bit aware of the service design methodologies or something. And in that way, and that is and then comes the community. How do we share that these tools are impactful? That's when it comes that we keep advocating about it at a local stage, that we show the designers who are using those kind of thought process, those kind of toolkits, those kind of methodologies, are a very good designer. They have good growth, and that is the reality of our community. All the people who are kind of like having good career growth, and the people who are interested in service design is doing great. I think they are growing very, very fast. So that kind of gives a bit of a motivation at the leadership level to also invest in those skills, because once they see that, oh, we had a service designer, somebody from service design background did great, then they feel like having more people with a similar competency. And that's when the community is also important. When we do a community meetup, then what happens, a lot of different people come in, and then they see that what kind of work these people are doing. And then there is this global layer. So the local community exchanges from global stage and showcases from global stage, and then it becomes very kind of a collective goal for all of us to make this growth. And how the growth looks like, that might depends on the region, that might depends on the need of that particular region, I would say. So that's what I feel like, as of somebody who has been practicing, somebody who has been part of an organization two times actually, where there was no service designer, but then I become the first service designer hired. And then later I saw that there were more service designer who become integrated in those teams, and it was wonderful. And the more I see more openings in service design in India and different companies, it gives me immense joy each time. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, you summarized so many different aspects, right? There, like you started off with how roles are evolving and we have different names. Like I've also heard product management and enterprise architect in the same space who use service design in their profession. Then you spoke a little bit about how we can create more visibility and advocate for service design within our organizations, and then global visibility that really allows for those local entities or different regions to actually see how important or impactful this is and then adopt it within their process. Fouad, I saw you nodding a lot, and I know you have a lot to say here, so on to you.
I would just say really quickly, I'm not going to dominate the conversation. I will say one thing that that she mentioned that I thought was really important was we need to come from a global perspective. We need to come to the table with language that resonates with the people that we work with, right? And so the word service design, as a terminology, as a methodology, as a role, can be confusing a lot of the times. And so often the way I explain it to people who don't care about design that much, right? Like executives and organizations, it's a form of problem solving, right? And the ability for us to think about problems, understand them, and then help to figure out how to solve those problems, right? And so I think from a global perspective, if we're looking to continue to want to have kind of the growth of the way that we work and what service design really does, we do have to show up in the language and talk the way that our customers and our clients want to understand us with, right? They don't understand design language, and so we have to speak in a way that they do understand in their language.
That is so true. And there was a lot of conversation around, as you were talking, metrics, right? What kind of metrics actually resonate with the people? Like, how do you even convert design processes into ROI or return? So there was a lot of conversation around that, and I'm sure we can have a whole episode on that, but I'm going to move forward. Julie, your inputs, just thinking about the global service design ecosystem and how this partnership contributes to that.
Wait, can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Like we're thinking about the global service design ecosystem and how does your organization's partnership with SDN contributes to it? Or you could like whatever your takeaway was from the last conversation and elaborate on it.
Okay, so for me, it's always hard to say what my organization contribute because currently this initiative that we started with is not functioning for the reason that it was a volunteering work, and I initiated this project with a wonderful peer of mine, and we both did it in our free time, which you guys know where it leads to when you do it only in your free time. So unfortunately, after we wrapped this wonderful series of conversation with these people from all over the world, we remained in touch with them, but that initiative did not go further other than us coming to conclusions, many of which you guys also have mentioned, that are the challenges of service design practice. And I think one of the big takeaways for us was to see that it is not something that we only see locally, but it is something that's everywhere. So to have a positive take, it's also something that we can hopefully together solve if we ever will, because it's not something that's specific locally. And another wonderful thing that I would like to actually emphasize for all of us, I think this whole community is not just a value for the profession, but it is also value for the human connections. And I know it may sound cliche, but honestly, when we started that initiative, one of our, with an ugly word, let's call it KPI, was that we want these people who participate to feel at the end that they can connect anyone at any time from that group as a friend after the series of workshops is up. And that's actually what happened. And the wonderful proof of that is that a bunch of weeks ago, in early September, I went to London to attend another type of design conference. I actually met Birgit there. She also was there. It was Design for Planet. So it was from a different perspective, focusing on what design can do for a sustainable future, if anything. And honestly, I hope that we can, but that's a whole other topic. So I was at this conference and I met a few of these people who we had on for this workshop series. And this was the first time in our life that we met in person. And the conversation started like as if we have been friends also in real life for however long we have known each other. And I think this sort of support is really important for a type of profession like ours, which is, even though it has existed for, I don't know, let's say 10 years or so, it's still in its infancy. And I feel that we need this kind of mutual support and sharing these experiences, because otherwise there have been moments in my professional life where I felt like, oh, not this conversation again. And I'm not talking about my peers, but my clients, right? But also Fouad, please also tell me, Fouad, if I pronounce your name wrong, but also what he mentioned, finding the language that we can share what service design is, I think is challenging for service designers. It is challenging because it also means that we learn the language of our clients. And in some cases, it requires us to learn a lot about that specific area or industry where they are at, so we can bring up the type of examples that will make sense for them, for what we want them or we hope them to change in the ways that they function. And, I think we all know that when service design is applied, it's not always gentle. In the beginning, it can be painful because it comes with the territory that it changes things. And when it changes processes, it means there's a change in the organization and there will be a person responsible for it. So it brings up a lot of these issues that I find that I often I'm missing from service design stories. The part where we are happy to share the success of our projects, but then the challenging parts are this. Okay, now we somehow wrap the successful project, but how did it begin? Just what also Anannya mentioned, I did a service design master's 15 years ago in Italy, right? 15 years ago. So when I got out of school, nobody had a clue what service design was, nobody. So you can guess my struggles to find a job that is at least in the vicinity of what I had hoped to do. And we have come a long way from there. And also the part I feel that the discipline has changed is, one is what you mentioned, Anannya, that it has certain bits and pieces have been scattered around industries, even if they don't have a service designers in them, but at least you can connect on a topic that they understand what you're trying to talk to them about in their language or not in their language, but they will at least have a clue what service design is, because there is more and more of it. But another aspect of it is that it has expanded towards business. What Sudeshana, you mentioned that. So I feel I mentioned a lot of things now, but these are my impressions that service design, we need each other to support each other with these stories, and we need each other to also learn how you guys did it, all of you, specific stories, because we will go out tomorrow to the next client, and you never know what situation you will find yourself in if you have to start from scratch, or if it's an organization where they already have some sort of service design maturity, or if it's an organization that actually requires you to also come there with an expanded tool set, not just customer facing, but also business facing way of thinking. So that's what I think the power of community is here for us, and that's why it's super valuable to connect and share these stories.
Very beautifully summarized the power of community, and also thinking in terms of design maturity and the kind of foundation we have to lay in order to really keep growing. I'm not going to say more, Meltem. I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm just going to build on what Julia said, because service design has really evolved from a niche creative practice, as you mentioned, for 15 years, to a strategic capability. It is really the real driver of a transformation now. It's blending with system thinking, and the exciting thing that it's maturing. So it's more evidence-based. Like, we're talking about the impact, the long-term outcomes, and we can talk with like evidence to people. So it's getting easier and easier because people are really understanding the importance of it. And in terms of community, it's really becoming more open, more diverse, and like collaborative. I think the biggest thing is the collaboration. It's no longer centered in one region or like one field, but it's really like all around, all over the world, and people are co-creating together. And that's the beauty of it. But what I found most interesting is that it moved beyond individual like authorship to a collective process. So right now we have a community to build on generosity, shared knowledge, and the belief that design can really, as I said before, drive change and transformation. And it's good that people who were struggling with that for so many years are so generous to share their experiences. Now we can learn from each other too, and just evolve for a better future.
Right. Thank you, Meltem. That was so insightful and profound. I'm going to take just one question. Everyone is just raving about how amazing the panel is and how much insights they're getting. This is also more like a comment, but I'm curious, with AI being integrated into the systems now, this potentially removes people as a part of operations and other capacities. I think it's remarkable change how we can design this. Any thoughts over this? This will be our final question as we wrap up.
I have something really quick about this one. With AI, I think it's coming. It's going to be a part of all of the technologies and tools that we use as a part of design. When we're thinking of design, I think what's really important is to have the conversation about what type of problems are served by AI, and what type of problems require deep contextual understanding and human-centered design, right? And so we need to do a better job upfront of determining, is this a problem where we need a lot of context? Is it an unknown? AI is not going to help in that space. But if it is a simple problem where we're looking for speed and efficiency, cost efficiency, then we should use AI to help us with those pieces. And so just getting better at choosing the problems that we pick, and applying the right methodology or delivering against it in the right way is really important. We're not going to be fighting against AI in the context. It's just going to be a part of all of the things and inside all of the technologies that we use. We just need to ensure that we're using it in a way that makes sense, but leaving the judgment up to humans.
That is perfect. So get the right tools at the right place at the right time and ask the right questions. Any further thoughts?
I'm just going to say, I don't think it's going to remove people. It's just going to redefine how we create value.
Yes.
AI should be a tool for us.
Yeah.
How we use all other tools to manage and like create efficiency, yes. But AI will never ever give us the human judgment, the empathy, the emotions that we're putting in. So it's just really redefining how we think and work, but the judgment and really the process, we will like the world needs designers.
Yes. Anannya.
I'll just add quickly, super quick. I personally feel that AI is just going to create a realization for us that how much human touch point is so much more appreciated. It's in our evolution how we crave human connection. I think a lot of budget hotels, for example, have these auto checking systems that you just, took the card and go and nobody to greet you, versus when you really go to a luxury experience, how you step in, you are welcomed, you are made feel as a guest. So that needs human touch, human connection. So I think AI will help us scale efficient services, but great services will always need human. That is what I feel.
That's incredible. So, like a mix of what does an emotional sensory experience look like, as opposed to just a mechanical experience, and thinking beyond that. Yeah. Juli, do you have anything to add?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Apologies. I think it's very it's very inviting to say something blunt about AI, but my impressions so far have been that the tool sets we work with are changing so rapidly, and I would like to see AI as one of these tools. I wouldn't want to look at it as something else. I understand that from a technological innovation perspective, it is equal to when mobile technology blew up or even the internet blew up. And yet I would think that it is a tool. And as long as we can regard it as such, and we are able to apply the principles of service design or even design thinking and the human-centered approach, then we will be able to use it the right way. And I'm pretty sure that there will be practices that will fail at that. One of my favorites, and I hope I'm not stepping on anyone's toes here, is when AI creates sample users, and that's like maybe there's a different name for that that's not coming to me now. But that, for
Synthetic
instance,
user, I think.
yes, thank you.
Synthetic user,
Synthetic
yeah.
users, to me, that's completely the dead end street. Like, why don't we use AI instead for what it was created? So, for instance, to make sense of a big amount of data, hopefully that's correctly collected. So it's, because we would have a wonderful session on data, by the way, another time. But so I would hope that some of these initiatives that come to life because somebody thought, wow, this is a great idea, we can make it happen, and then exclude the humans. But at the end of the day, it is humans who use services, and it is humans who go to hotels and want to be greeted by humans, right? So hopefully for a big amount of services, this cannot be excluded, and AI, we will find a good place for AI in our way of working, that it can enhance it and not compete with it. So that's my opinion.
That is incredible. Thank you so much, Juli. And with that, thank you so much for all of your time. This was an interesting discussion, and I assure you, if I had more time, I would drag it for another 3 hours. But since we are at the end, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your super amazing insights, and looking forward to continuing as partners and keep these conversations going. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
Thank
you.
you.
everyone.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, with that, we come to an end of a really amazing conversation. I know you have a lot of takeaways from that too. So a big thank you for constantly engaging. I saw people joining from different parts of the world, from India, from Canada, from Turkey. It is absolutely lovely how the community is so engaged and engaging with us live. With that, I know that you might be curious. Some of you are curious about SDN, so you have like the QR code there. You can scan and join us as a member. And also, for those of you who are now rewatching the talks and brushing up your notes from the recordings of SDGC, fear not if you have not been able to attend. The replay tickets will be out soon. In case you're feeling FOMO by looking at all the amazing reflections people are putting out there, don't worry, the tickets will be out soon. Just type in the chat replay tickets and we'll be sure to send you the first tickets. And finally, stay tuned, join us, follow us, and subscribe across LinkedIn and YouTube. And we'll see you next week on Thursday on Community